Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, which means we have tight end, defense, and wide receiver rankings coming at you. In today's video, we are going to go over the top 15 options for our tight end and our defense positions to make sure you are fully prepared so you can crush your opponents this weekend. If you have any start-sit questions, drop them down below. I would love to help you out with that. Reach out to me on Sleeper. I am available there as well. If you're new to the channel or if you haven't got to it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate your support on my road to my first 100 subscribers. It allows me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you guys the content that you love. With all of that out of the way, let's get into Week 10's tight end rankings. Starting off the list, back on top of the mountaintop at number 1, it is Travis Kelce going on the road to face Vegas. Kelce was finally able to end his 3-week hiatus from scoring, and he did it in a big way, finishing as the tight end 3 in the Chiefs' win over Green Bay. As Mahomes continues to work to get back on track, he's going to continually lean on Kelce to help get him there. Up next on the list, at number 2, same game, it is Darren Waller against those Chiefs. Waller looked great after his 2-week absence. He turned 11 targets into 92 yards and a top 4 finish. I think this one's going to be a shootout, and there's going to be a similar workload here for Waller. He should ball out. Next up at 3, it is George Kittle at home against the Rams. Kittle came back from an injury and didn't skip a beat, going for over 100 yards and scoring in an excellent return. He is locked and loaded as a tight end 1 after reassuring managers that he is 100%. We move on to Mark Andrews on the road against Miami, and he is ranked at 4. Andrews has cooled off a bit in the last 2 weeks, but he's still been able to rack up 92 yards in that span. He has a good matchup here with Miami, and I think he finishes once again back in that top 5. Up next, we have Kyle Pitts going on the road to face the Cowboys. Pitts responded from his 8-week dud to put up solid production against New Orleans. He's averaging 7 targets per in his last 3, and that might increase as long as Ridley remains out. With just 1 touchdown in the season still, he's also due in that department. TJ Hawkinson is next up. He goes on the road to face the Steelers, and he's here at 6. Hawkinson has been on fire over his last 3, and now he faces a Steelers defense that just gave up over 80 yards to Cole Kmet, who ended up being the leading receiver for the Bears. Up next, at 7, it is Mike Gesicki at home against Baltimore. Gesicki continues to solidify himself as an awesome option weekly for managers. He has not finished outside of the top 21 since back in week 1. Baltimore is a bottom 2 defense against tight ends, so that gives him a top 3 potential. We move on to 8, and it is Dallas Goedert going on the road to face Denver. Goddard is averaging 6 targets a game in his last 3 with 185 yards in that time. After back-to-back top 7 finishes, he sputtered a bit last week, but had 43 yards, still offering that solid floor. We move on to number 9, and it's Dalton Schultz at home against Atlanta. Schultz was one of the few bright spots in an atrocious Dallas offense last week. Atlanta has nobody that's going to be able to keep up or cover him, and he is tight end 8 on the season. As we round out our top 10, we see Noah Fant at home against Philadelphia. The Eagles are allowing more points than anyone to the position, and Fant is averaging over 7 targets a game in his last 3. With the way that Philly brings pressure, he will see at least that many, helping take pressure off of Teddy. Continuing to shoot up our rankings, finding himself all the way up at 11, is Pat Freiermuth at home against Detroit. As predicted, the rookie continued his ascension in primetime in a huge win over Chicago. He has 87 yards, 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games, and I think he continues to keep that up. Our final tight end 1 option is Tyler Higbee on the road against San Francisco. Higbee barely missed a touchdown against Tennessee, coming within inches, tapping the sideline. He is averaging 7 targets a game in his last 3 and will be needed to jumpstart this offense after a down week. We move on to 13, and that is Dawson Knox on the road against the Jets. Welcome back, Dawson. He should return after a 3-week absence, but it is unknown how much his hand injury is going to hamper his production. I would temper expectations if he is indeed cleared to play. At 14, Dan Arnold gets Indianapolis on the road. Darnold has 60 or more yards in 3 out of his last 4 games, so he gives owners a solid floor. He's been absolutely stellar since coming over from Carolina in that trade a couple weeks ago. We move on to 15, and it is Logan Thomas at home against Tampa Bay. There is certain to be a pass-heavy game script in this one, and Thomas will see volume in his return from a 7-week absence. Now we'll get to our notable omissions, and there's just a couple to go over for you guys. Zach Ertz is the first. He gets Carolina at home, and I think he might just be asked to block a lot more often to help protect Kyler Murray. The next and final tight end we are going to cover is Tyler Conklin on the road against the Chargers. And I am just fading Vikings pass catchers in a tough matchup. Cousins has struggled over the last 2 weeks as well, which certainly isn't helpful. Let's now move to our defenses in Week 10. Starting off at number 1, it's the Bills defense at home against the Jets. Buffalo's D is going to have to carry the load until their offense is able to get back on track. At 2, it's the Cardinals defense against the Panthers. In the end of our top 3, we have the Bucs going on the road to face Washington's football team. I think that Tampa Bay is going to be firing on all cylinders after a loss and a bye. You can book it. At 4, we have the Steelers defense. They get the Lions this week. And rounding out the top 5, it is an on-fire Titans defense. They get the Saints at home. This defense has transformed in the last 3, and the Saints do not have the weapons that are going to threaten that. At 6, we have the Colts defense against Jacksonville. At number 7, it is the Rams defense going on the road to face the 49ers. LA gets back on track and makes a couple of big defensive plays here. At 8, we have the Saints on the road against the Titans, and at 9, it's the Ravens defense on the road against Miami. I think if Tua sits, this is going to be an even better play. Rounding out the top 10, it's the Browns on the road against New England. Cleveland's front 7 is going to terrorize Mac Jones all day, and New England could be without their top 2 running backs. At 11, same game, I like that Patriots defense against Cleveland. And rounding out the defense ones for us at 12, it's the Broncos at home against Philadelphia. The Broncos looked awesome last week and carried that over against a mediocre Philly O. At 13, we move to the Cowboys. They get Atlanta at home, and I think Dallas is going to show up a lot better this week and may cause Matty Ice some trouble. 14th ranked team is the Packers defense against Seattle, and the last defense before our omissions is that Panthers defense on the road against Arizona. Carolina's defense is going to be okay here as they continue to try and carry this team. Now we move to our notable omissions, and I just have a couple for you guys. The first is the Eagles. On the road, they get Denver. They have struggled stopping the run all year, and that is exactly what Denver does best. The final team is the Raiders at home against Kansas City, and I think this is just going to be a shootout in the AFC West. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new or haven't done it yet, if you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate the support. It allows me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you the content that you love. If you have any questions, if you disagree, drop that down below. I would love to engage with you. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham O'Pat, and we'll see you next time.